good to see the CLC full. I like this up here. We all know why you're here. We're here to have a prayer meeting for my Toronto Maple Leafs, so that tomorrow night they do not get eliminated. So we're going to spend an hour in prayer for the Maple Leafs. No, there's something more in that. Dave asked me to open in prayer, and how many here brought their devices? Yeah? Did anyone used to watch Red Green? Come on, tell me you watched Red Green. Yeah? Remember the man's prayer? I am a man and I can change. So I have a device and I can change if I have to, I guess. So no, we won't say it that way. I'm really looking forward to what Dave has to say. Dave is going to complement a lot of what I've been saying on Sunday. And he's going to dive even deeper on some things. And he's a very knowledgeable guy on this stuff. And so I think you're going to talk for 45 minutes, then we're going to have some Q&A at the end. Is that how we're going to do it? Why don't we just come before the Lord and just pray, and let's start our time together. Father, thank you so much that we get to be part of your plan of salvation. Thank you so much that we get to be on mission for you in this world. We just count it a privilege, Lord, to be used by you. And Lord, this time and this place in this history where we are with these devices and this technology, it is sometimes confusing to know how to use it and how not to use it. And we just want to be wise with it. We want to be wise with it and bring glory to you through it in some way, in some form. So I pray that over these next few weeks, as we dive into this topic on Sunday and then in this kind of seminar, that you would give us wisdom, that you would show us, Lord, how we're to use these for your glory. Give us clarity on how to raise our kids. Give us clarity on how to protect our privacy and security and things like that. And ultimately so that we can be disciples and servants of you. So lead us to that end, we pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thanks very much, Brent. Okay, everyone. You heard Pastor Brent on Sunday. What was one of its instructions to us? Turn it off. So everyone, take your phone. Come on now. Let's follow the direction of the pastor, and I want you to turn your phone off. Come on, please. Let's do it. Practice. Do you know how to turn your phone off? I'm sure you do. Come on. Let's do it. I'll give you a minute. Come on. No, if you got a phone. Didn't bring them. Even better. All right. Let's turn these things off. Okay. Question. Is it truly off? Do you know? Or is it just asleep? We're going to talk about that the next session. All right. So, a few ground rules. We are not going to go down conspiracy theory rabbit holes if we can possibly avoid it. And there are lots of them. So we're going to try not to do that. And no politics, okay? Even though the tendency is to let's get the government involved or not involved in what we're doing, we're going to say, please, let's not do that. So, anyway, me. Lena and I have been going to Spruce Grove Alliance Church for the last 38 years. I have an electrical engineering background. I spent 35 years in the IT industry and developing software. I worked on some major investigation and some top secret projects. And I really do have a passion for the personal information security. That's really something that is dear to my heart. And I'm constantly working to see how I can improve that kind of privacy. And my retirement hobby is, I like to race cars. And so my son drives, and I try to keep up and do some of the mechanical work. But it's a good father-son activity for us. All right. Told you I was going to tell you a story. This is Jennifer. She is on the right. Aubrey, youngest daughter, is in the middle, and Brianna is on the left. They live in Arizona, and on January 20th, 2023, at about 5 o'clock, while attending a dance class with her younger daughter, Aubrey, she gets a call. It's unidentified, though. It doesn't say who it's from. But Brianna was away on a ski trip. And so she thought, well, maybe my daughter's not calling from her cell phone. So she went ahead and picked up the phone. And was it Brianna? Well, it was, and it wasn't. So the caller yelled into the phone, "Mom, I messed up." It was Brianna, for sure. Jennifer knew it was Brianna because of the inflection, the tone, the cadence of her voice was exactly like Brianna. Everything was the same. Jennifer asked for more information. Alarm, what's wrong? Okay. And Brianna said, "Mom, I messed up. I'm in trouble." Then a man came on the line, and she could still hear Brianna in the background. And the man said, "Lay down, put your head back." And you could hear cries of help from Brianna. Then the man fired off some commands, and listen what he said. "Listen here, I have your daughter. You call the police, you call anybody, or pop her something full of drugs. I'm going to have my way with her and drop her off in Mexico. You'll never see her again." Do you think Jennifer's alarmed? Of course she is. Okay, so the instructions were for a $1 million ransom, and after about 5 minutes, Jennifer was able to negotiate down to $50,000, and the call ended at that point. So what happened then was that Jennifer called 911, who got a hold of the FBI, and they tried to find out what was going on. So then Brianna called. She says, "What's going on?" "I'm in the ski resort. I was just getting ready to go to bed. So everything is fine here." It was a scam, 100% scam. So the FBI said that AI software was used to clone the voice, and they used software that costs about $5 a month in a subscription service, and they feel it took about a minute to create Brianna's voice. The FBI said that an average of $11,000 is paid on scam ransoms by families that get touched with this. It's not quite an epidemic, but the trend is rising, and it's alarming. So that's the bad side of technology, isn't it? So here we took three things. Social media, because that's where the voice came from, TikTok and Instagram and so on and so forth. That's where Brianna's voice came from. AI, which is artificial intelligence. We are going to talk more about that today. And then, of course, just the intelligence of these devices that we have and how they're easily scammed. So, how can we avoid working with this? Well, we're going to go back and we're going to talk history, okay? So, some hardware history. Here's where it all started, with these things. Now, if you've got gray hair like I have, you know what these things are. They're vacuum tubes. Or if you're from Britain, they were called valves. And they were the first generation of electronics where electricity could be controlled electronically through signals and what have you. And they went from about 1910 through to 1965. And they were replaced by this little thing. It's called a transistor. And of course, if most people are aware of what transistors are, and that's what they kind of look like. And they went from 1965 to 1980. And then in 1980, they developed what's called integrated circuits. And integrated circuits then were able to take a bunch of transistors and pack them into a small little case and connect them all up properly and what have you. And so they're able to shrink it down. And then finally in 1990, to present-day technology, this is what's called large-scale integration, large-scale integrated circuits. And they have lots of transistors built into that thing. So you can see from 1910 to 65, about 55 years, we were settled on one device, and then the transistor came along and we shrunk down the timeline, and then only 10 years for the integrated circuit, and now finally we're at this stage where we've got a bunch of power packed into these things. And I love show and tell. So I've got some samples. Lena's going to help me pass them around. That's a vacuum tube. There it is right there. I pulled this out of my inventory, okay? So there's a couple in here. These little black things, those are transistors, okay? And that little black thing there, that's got about 25 or 30 transistors into one little package. So, Lena, you go ahead and pass them around here so you can feel them, touch them. Please pass them around in the boxes. I don't want the tubes to get dropped on the ground and they break. So that's kind of where the hardware has been at. So today, 60 years from the transistor through to the smartphone. Anybody want to guess how many transistors are packed into today's smartphone? Give me a guess. 100 transistors? Million? 1,000? Come on. 10 million. What else am I bid? What else? Come on. 15 billion. 15 billion transistor devices are in one of these smartphones. Yike. Okay. How many neurons in the human brain? Anybody got a guess? No? 86 billion. Okay. Now, a neuron's not a transistor. Come on, we all know this. We're made in God's image, not in some piece of silicone or what have you. But there's 86 billion in the human brain. All right, so that's the hardware that we've been dealing with. Where did the software come from? What's that all about? Well, it started with a gentleman by the name of Alan Turing. You may have heard his name before. He was a mathematician who, a Cambridge-educated mathematician who worked in Bletchley Park. And he is most famous for breaking the code for the German Enigma machine. He's the guy that led that team that was able to break the code of those code machines that the Germans used in World War II. And some people say it was pivotal to changing the outcome of the war. But he's also known for something else. He is the first person who developed the idea of ACE. And what's ACE? Well, let me get it right here because I got to get it down. It is the Automated Computing Engine. You're looking at the first computer. And so what it is it's a machine built of vacuum tubes, because that's all they had back then. And what they do is they give it a set of instructions, and it does a job. But they can change the instructions, and it'll do another job. Well, when I go into the kitchen, I get a recipe, and I can make nachos. Okay, so that's one job. But then I go into the kitchen, and I pull out the bread maker, and I got a recipe for bread. And now I can make bread. So I can do multiple things depending on the instructions. That's what the computer is. So this was the very first computer. And unfortunately, it wasn't built till after he passed away. But it was his design, it was his idea. So you're looking at the very first computer, and if you can see the little colored dots on that screen, those are vacuum tubes in there, hundreds of them. And finally then, this morphed into programming language, so structured instructions that we can give a computer to have it do a certain things. And these really started about 1960. IBM developed a lot. There were what they called 3GL languages, Fortran, Pascal, there was all sorts of them around. And really, these languages are still used today, although they've got different versions of them. All right, so an interesting story about humans versus machines. Project Mercury. This, of course, was the attempt by the US to send a man into orbit. Hadn't been done before in Western civilization. And they started it in 1958, and it went through to 1953. So, there's a movie called Hidden Figures. I don't know if you've seen it before. If you haven't, you really need to see it. It's just a great movie. It really is a story about kind of discrimination and overcoming adversity and what have you. But it's also the subplot of man versus machine, or humans versus machines. So what was happening is that there are huge mathematical calculations that are required to get a man up into orbit in a capsule, but more importantly, to get him back down without having him burn up. And that was really the thing. And they didn't know how to do this mathematics. They didn't have any idea because it hadn't been done before. And so what they did is that they hired teams of mathematicians to solve the problem. And one of the teams happened to be made of black ladies, very, very, very smart people, and there was a team of them there. And the discrimination part was that they were set aside and they were kind of ignored and what have you, but it turned out that they really had the answers to the whole thing. But the subplot is they went up against the first transistorized computer made by IBM. And so you see that who's right? Who's got the right calculations? Does it the ladies have the right calculations, or is it the machine that has the right calculation? And that's kind of the subplot of the movie. Who was right, do you know? The ladies were right, exactly. Now, as they got further on in the space program, well, then the machines, kind of took over because they had different generations. But it was the first transistorized computer from IBM, and it filled an entire room, and it took like 10 people to keep this thing running. So, computing power is measured in flops. What's a flop? Well, sometimes I think I'm a flop, but maybe not today. So a flop is floating point operations per second. It's just a general way of measuring computing horsepower, if you will. And the IBM 7090 in 1971 had 100 kiloflops, 100,000 flops it could do. Today, your smartphone has 15 billion kiloflops available. So, 15 billion times the power of the machine that sent humans into space in your hand. That's what you've got in your hand. Took them 63 years to get there. Now, how many apps? Well, on the Google site, there's just under 3 million apps, and on the Apple site, there's just under 2 million apps. And together, they generate about $935 billion in revenue. This is big business, right? And it is pervasive, and it is really growing. All right, where did the internet come from? Well, yike. ARPANET. ARPANET was a program developed by the U.S. Defense Department. And it was the Advanced Research Projects Agency Network. Yike. So that was a diagram of how ARPANET worked. And it was just closed to them, but it set out the protocols for exchanging what they called packets of information back and forth between two devices. All right. Probably people didn't see anything to do with kind of connectivity within a larger structure until they got to CompuServe. And I don't know, I used CompuServe. I can remember actually dialing in, you dial in with your modem, and it was kind of like a tiny little internet, if you will. So you could do things like you could read the news, you could do shopping, there were forums on there, chat, what we call the chat now, but it was all in CompuServe, all right? And then finally, America Online came on the system about 1991, and it was the same type of thing, except they were bigger and more sophisticated. So that is some of the communication protocol that joined all of this together. Well, today, CompuServe have 1,000 users. They thought that was pretty good. In 55 years, there's now 5.35 billion users worldwide on the internet. No wonder it slows down every now and then, eh? All right. Well, how did things get connected? Like, what was the kind of the technology in behind? Well, obviously, the first one was radio. Okay? And radio really started about 1920 once vacuum tubes and radios became more popular. Then we had radio. And these were radio waves. The key to the radio system was one person transmitting, hundreds or thousands or hundreds of thousands listening. But it only goes one way. That's the only way the communication goes. So, after that, we had network cables. They came along around 1975, and that's where you had to plug these wires in to connect computers together. And that was a real pain, if you will. We'll try to be polite about it. And then finally, fiber optic got invented in 1995, and it's still used today, but it's not the up-and-coming technology. It connects all the servers together, for sure, but it's not the preferred technology that we use. What do we use today? Well, you know what it is. It's Wi-Fi, cellular, data networks, Starlink, you name it. That's how we connect nowadays. It's wireless. You would be astounded by the amount of RF energy that we are being bombarded with and saturated with all the time. It's amazing that we don't fall over dead because of it, but it just doesn't seem to affect our brains unless you talk to some conspiracy theorists, and then they've got a lot to say about that type of thing. So, all right. So to summarize, here's where we are. So let's take a look at it from, okay, what of my great-grandparents, what did they have? Well, they had tubes, they had hand calculations, they, do math. They read the newspaper, that was their internet. They had radio waves, they had party lines for their phone. The grandparents, of course, they had transistors, and the advent of the computers were starting. You could get onto CompuServe, and you had telephone modems that you could plug in and connect to CompuServe. Your parents had integrated circuits, and Radio Shack, they had computers. TRS-80 and all the variations that went with it. They were big into the business. The software-dominant people were IBM and Microsoft at the time. Huge battles about who was going to win that. The software wars there. AOL. It was also the start of the dot-com boom, where you could actually get on and have internet access to just about anybody that wanted to put up an internet. And then fiber optic cables and network cables were, well, today it's all microprocessor, smartphones. The dominant people in software are Apple, Google, Microsoft, and the global internet protocol, the IP address. That's how we identify my phone versus your phone versus a phone over there, and all the computers, they all have these assigned addresses. Do you think there's a telephone book for all these addresses? Huh? Yes? No? There is. It's called domain name servers. Yeah. And so that's the massive global address book for all the computers. So yes, it's there. And of course, cellular, Starlink, Wi-Fi is how people communicate now. And you don't think anything of it. It's just there. Boom. I'm connected, chat, do a calculation, check my email, do all sorts of things. You just don't think about it anymore. All right. So that's how we got from back in the 1900s to where we're at today. Who are the players? Who's doing all this? Well, here they are. This is what's called the Magnificent Seven. So if you follow the stock market at all, you realize that these people occupy take up about 35% of all the stock market activity and valuation. All right? And they have a combined greater worth than every other country except the US and China. Yeah. Are they powerful? You bet they are. All right. So some of the names you may recognize, but maybe some of the things that they own you don't recognize. So let me just get to the proper list here, and I'll just kind of go over what they are. Okay, so Microsoft, business software, of course, Office and Teams, that's one of their big things. Windows, of course, is their big deal. They sell hardware, they do gaming, they own LinkedIn. They invested in ChatGPT and OpenAI. Alphabet, that's Google, okay? And so they've got Google, Android. They own YouTube, Wing, Isomorphic Labs, Calico, Intrinsic, Fitbit. They have 12 subsidiaries, and they've done 257 mergers and acquisitions in the last 10 years. So they're just gobbling up technology all over the place. They're just grabbing it. Meta. Well, of course, we all know who Meta is, don't we? That's Facebook. It's Instagram. It's WhatsApp. It's Metaverse. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. They've done 100+ mergers and acquisitions in the last 8 years. NVIDIA, now that's probably a name you haven't heard before. They're a chip maker, and they're going to become important later on when we talk about AI because they make a specialized type of chip, and their business has just exploded beyond imagination. Amazon, of course, they sell products, logistics. They've got Audible, Kindle, Whole Foods. They just bought the MGM movie company. They've got streaming service. They've done 115 mergers and acquisitions in the last 8 years. And Apple, well, besides the thing that you eat at lunchtime, of course, we know they do hardware, software, ecosystem. Now, Apple are kind of closed and they're kind of quiet. They don't really tell you a lot about, what they've been doing in technology, but they just quietly go and gobble up companies as well. And Tesla. What do you think Tesla? I'm driving a car. I mean, that's not a technology company. You bet it's a technology company. In fact, that's really their main deal. Cars is just, they just put wheels on their technology is really what they do. That's how they do it. So, and what do they own? SpaceX, of course. Starlink. You heard of Starlink? That's that global internet system of satellites out there. They've got 6,000 satellites up there right now. They're projected to have between 12,000 and 24,000 satellites in the near future to keep things going. They just bought Twitter, renamed it X. Neuralink, Tesla Energy, Boring Company, OpenAI. So they are a huge technology player, even though you think of their cars. That's what you think about, but not so much. Okay, here it is, people. AI. What is it? Are we ready? Algorithms plus computing power plus big data. That's pretty simple. All right. Let's see what this is. What are algorithms? Anybody got any idea? I'm sorry, what? Math formula. You're absolutely right. But it's a math formula with just one or two little extra things. All right, so here's an algorithm, if you will. 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. Right, okay. Simple math, okay? You can do it in your head, you can do it in your sleep. But what's the algorithm? Well, it's that. Number plus 2 equals new number. Number equals new number. Go to step 1, and then just repeat. That's it. That's an algorithm. 4 simple steps, and boom, you can just count. So algorithms are nothing really more than math formulas with some instructions. That's what they are. Now, that sounds simple, and we'll get talking into how that maybe changes in a little bit. Okay, computing power. So, how much computing power do you need to make this work? Well, one smartphone we just talked about does 15 teraflops. The human brain, they estimate, can do between 10 and 1,000 teraflops. Not too bad, eh? We're keeping up. We're there. We're in the game. The cloud servers combined right now, 4 billion teraflops of processing power in all the servers that are sitting in these various organizations. Now that's a lot of processing power. Okay? Big data. This is us, people. This is where we are involved. We are contributing to big data. That's us. That's the only part that we've got in this thing. Amazon have 2 million cloud data servers. Microsoft have 1 million of these things. Google, Facebook, and Apple, they won't tell you. But I did find out that Apple are going to spend $430 billion in the next 5 years on more servers. Okay. So you can know where this is going, don't you? Now here's a really, 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 really big number. By 2025, there will be 200 zettabytes of data storage on cloud servers. That's 200,000 billion terabytes of data storage. That's 200 times more bytes of data than stars in the observable universe. That is a lot of storage. And they're obviously running out because they keep building more and more and more. So we've got huge power. We've got algorithms, some of them that have been around since 2500 BC, and sophisticated formulas. And we got lots of storage of data. And it is that ultra-fast processing of lots of data that enables them to produce results using these algorithms that enable to somewhat simulate intelligence, or so they think. All right. So what are some of the common uses of AI? Well, digital assistants, healthcare, social media, of course, those are big ones. Manufacturing, robots, self-driving cars, banking, investing, insurance, travel, booking, marketing, chatbots, entertainment, gaming, search engines, smart home devices, and Amazon. You would be amazed of what Amazon use in the way of artificial intelligence to think of things that you need to buy. And they are very, very, very good at it. And they hire, and then they have hundreds, maybe thousands of theoretical scientists and what have you working on this artificial intelligence to help you buy things. So where are we going? Yeah. Well, of course. Anybody want to take a Kleenex box and tape it to your head? Then you can have glasses, okay? And you can experience the metaverse. All right, so, and this is Facebook's big deal, the meta-universe. It's all virtual. You live and breathe and reside in the metaverse. Do you realize that they have taken, I don't know how Mark Zuckerberg does this, but they are now selling real estate in the metaverse. And they are getting people to pay for it. So you can buy yourself a house in the metaverse, and it is your house, and you can go ahead and they're constructed for you, all in virtual reality, and it's not cheap. You spend $200,000-$300,000 building a house in the metaverse. Yeah. Not for me, okay? So, digital art. You heard of digital art? So this is a digital piece of art that somebody has created using, Photoshop type tools and so on and so forth, and they sell you digital art. Except they don't. It's called an NFT, non-fungible token. And what it is it's a pointer to a website that's got this image on it. And you're not buying the image, you're buying the pointer. Okay, so guess how many times the artist can sell a pointer to the art? And I have seen people spend close to $1 million on these NFT digital art pointers. Biggest scam I've ever heard of. Wish I was smart enough. All right, so now you're really ready for the scary thing? Here we go. Neuralink, brain-computer interface. All right. Now this starts out as a project by Elon Musk, and by the way, there's hundreds of people doing this, companies that are doing this, and the intentions are good. Well, we take disabled people, and we're going to help them because we're going to implant microchips and connect it directly to the neurons in their brain. And then it's got a little Wi-Fi transmitter, Bluetooth, so that it can connect up with your smartphone. And the idea is great. I mean, think about it. You could help a blind person to see. You could help a deaf person to hear. You could help a mute person to speak. And you could think a thought, and something would happen. I'd love a cup of coffee. Boom, the coffee maker goes on. Oh, gee, I really want to watch that movie. Comes on your TV. All you have to do is think it. You don't have to punch any buttons. You just think it. Okay? And he right now is taking applications for the trials. So you can sign up for this thing if you want, and if you qualify, you can be surgically altered with this transplant. All right? So it sounds all altruistic. It sounds pretty good, not bad. But what about the other way? Like, what if they start communicating the other way? Dave, you need to buy a new car. Oops. I mean, you really, really, really need to buy a new car. I'd be very susceptible to that, as Lena knows. But that's the danger, and this is where it's going. So this technology, it's new, it's on the frontier, it sounds kind of intriguing, sounds like it might have some benefit for people, but that's how all this technology starts. It all starts with the benefit of how good it's going to make our lives. But think of the bad side. So this is coming. Expect this to be a thing in the next 5 years. All right. Are you scared yet? Yeah, okay. And we could go down a rabbit hole right now, but we're not going to. All right. I want to spend a few minutes talking about what privacy is. Most people think privacy is this: your numbers, your passport number, your driver's license, certainly your banking information, your credit card, maybe you've got a security tag, you got a health card. I mean, this is what privacy is thought of. So when we think about keeping our privacy on the internet, we want to protect this information. This is just numbers, though. That's all this is. This is nothing more than just numbers. And it gives you access to certain things. Now, the ultimate number that I've heard about is people now are getting DNA samples. There's genealogy places then that you can send them in a sample of your tissue or your blood or something like that. They will then map your DNA. And then they put it on a public website and then allow other people who might be related to you to, come in. You really want to put your DNA on the internet? I don't think so. But that's privacy. I want to take another look at privacy, though. And it's this. In Luke 12:7, Jesus said, "Indeed, the very hairs on your head are numbered." Okay. So when Jesus was talking to the disciples in the multitude, this is what he said. He didn't say, God made you unique by taking polycycle devices and putting them in a double helix chain, and we call that DNA, and we implant that DNA into your cell, and it has some your geology in there as well. Jesus didn't say. Yeah, Jesus didn't say that, because inevitably he would have said, had to answer another question. What do you mean you don't know what a cell is? So Jesus spoke in eloquent language, simple, easy to understand, but incredibly profound. Unbelievably profound. Notice he didn't say, you have a bunch of hairs on your head, or I can count the number of hairs on your head. No, he says each hair is numbered. Wow. That is unbelievable. So you almost get the vision of, okay, well, he's forming you in the womb. Okay, the hair's going to go here. That's number 1. That's number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, so on and so forth. You can just imagine that going on. And that helps make you an individual. That's how God defines you, as an individual. Okay, well, I couldn't help myself, okay? The average person has about 100,000 strands of hair. I'm a little down on the count right now, as a few others might be. But anyway, it goes generally between 80,000 and 150,000 strands of hair on the human head. Can you imagine God not only just placing them there, but marking them and counting them, okay? That's kind of cool. But how many unique individuals can you make out of that? So I started doing a little math, okay, and there's a formula that you can use, and it turns out that it's like 100,000 hairs. It's a formula called 100,000 factorial. And what that is, it's 100,000 times 99,999 times 99,998, blah, 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 blah. And it generates that, then uniquely identifies where those pieces of hair are on your head. How many combinations does that make? 2.8 billion times 10 with 456,573 zeros on the end of the number. That's how many unique individuals can be made just by 100,000 hairs on your head. God's in control, right? That he could do that and explain it to the disciples when Jesus was here with that simple statement. That really is what your privacy is. So who are you as a unique individual? And that's important. All right. So what makes you unique? Well, sure, there's numbers, but it's also the things that you are and that you do and that you feel and that you like. I'll give you an example. I like peanut butter. I happen to like peanut butter on my toast in the morning. On some days, not every day. But that's a characteristic of mine. Okay? It's just something I happen to like. I happen to like driving that particular style of car. Okay? What are some of the other characteristics? We're going to throw this open and start telling me some of the characteristics that makes a person unique. Anybody? We don't have to say about, well, I like peanut butter, I don't like jam or whatever, but what kind of characteristics make you unique? I'm sorry? Sure. All right, so a sports team. You have an affinity to a sports team. Your gender, absolutely. Fingerprints, yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry? How you walk. Exactly, good one. Whether you're a morning person or a... Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Yes, some people are and some people aren't. Yes. What else? Yes, a big one. Yes, yeah. Hobbies, interests, passions. Music, yeah. Your character. Absolutely. That's a big one, isn't it? Also, your spirituality. These are the things that make you unique. Okay? That's what they want. That's the gold for them, is to be able to then map you as a unique individual and your characteristics, and that then enables them to forward their business models, whatever it happens to be. But those are the things that make you unique, and that's the information that they want to track. I'm going to give you a teaser to next session, and we're going to talk about privacy and how to maintain it. So here's a list of the things, the sensors, and the ability that your smartphone has to track you. This is what it is. There's an accelerometer. You know what an accelerometer is? Things that measures, bouncing, acceleration. So my cell phone would know I'm stomping because it would be able to measure that vibration. Okay? A gyroscope, magnetometer, GPS system, of course, proximity sensor. How close is my cell phone to your cell phone? Bingo. Okay, it's a foot. It's 2 meters, so on and so forth. So that's proximity sensor. Ambient light sensors. There's at least 2 to 4 microphones, at least 2 speakers, 2 to 4 cameras on every cell phone. By the way, cameras. Do you always see what the camera's taking a picture of? No. It operates in the background. It can take a picture, send it to somebody else. If that's the technology that exists, I'm not saying it's doing it, but it can do that. And you don't have to see the picture. It just sends it off. Touchscreen sensor, touch pen, cell network, Wi-Fi connection, fingerprint sensor, pedometer. I use one of these things all the time. I love to count steps. Barcode scanners, barometer, heart rate sensor, thermometer, air humidity sensor, Geiger counter, Soli sensor. I didn't know about this one until I found this list. It's radar that reads body language. Okay? So, the Soli sensor, even though I've got my camera turned off, knows that I'm sitting down. Okay? Knows I'm holding my hand up. It knows I'm clapping. That's what a Soli sensor will do. Okay? Of course, you got Bluetooth connection. You got near field RF connection. This is the list right now. Okay? Expect to get more and more as you go along. Buy a new cell phone, get some new sensors. All right. Well, we got just a few minutes. Let me just run through a kind of a fun example, because I think I've got you down here right now. All right. Green eggs or ham? Well, I don't know. What do you think? So let's take an example of an algorithm about green eggs and hams. So there's a class of algorithms called heuristic algorithms, and they solve problems that have no right answer. And this, by the way, this is key to artificial intelligence. It's built on probability theory. Okay? You know, it's not like 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, and what have you, has definitive answer. It's kind of like 1, 3, 7, 1, 3, 5, 7, green tomatoes, puppies, black jacket, what have you. It's a problem that doesn't have a right answer. So what you do is that when you combine personal data gathering and feedback, then the results of the algorithm can change. So here's an example. What do you like better, green eggs or ham? Well, maybe this half of the room, they like green eggs. This half of the room, they like ham. So the algorithm runs and checks it out, and it comes out about 50-50. So there's an equal number of green eggs and ham. That's what people prefer. Okay. They probably take that survey and you don't even know it, because they've been monitoring what you buy at the grocery store. They buy a lot of green eggs over here. They buy a lot of ham over here. Okay. So it says, somebody new comes in, we don't know about them. There's a 50-50 chance about whether they're going to be on the green egg side or whether they're going to be on the ham side. We don't know. Okay. All right. Now, supposing the global green egg society buy this data from Facebook and Meta and Google and about these preferences. And can they buy this information? You're going to find out next session. Yeah, absolutely they can. Okay. And they love green eggs. So they mount a campaign to promote green eggs. It's directed at both groups, but it's really designed for the people who like ham. That's really where the campaign is targeted. They mount a campaign promoting green eggs. While it's directed at both groups, it's really designed for these people. They present articles to both groups extolling the virtues of green eggs. Green eggs are wonderful, people. Why aren't you buying green eggs? They're healthy. You're going to love them. They're much better than ham, so on and so forth. People on this side mostly ignore this. I like ham. These people love this message. They hear it all the time. They think it's great. But these people, they don't think it's all that good. Then they start presenting articles to the ham people, warning them against the harmful effects of ham. Ham is bad for you. It's bad for your health. You're going to die earlier. All sorts of things. Okay. They know that some ham people are going to start to click on these articles because they're a little afraid. So click. Boom, that's recorded. Click, that's recorded. You start clicking on these ham articles about how ham is bad for you, and you get more of them. Oh, there's another article here. Oh, wait a minute, there's a study over here. Click, 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 click. Okay? These people over here don't see these articles. Just you do. Okay? Now they start monitoring how much ham people are buying. So, has it changed your buying habits? No. Yeah, the more people read these articles about how ham is bad for you, they actually start buying a few green eggs and a little less ham. Okay? They encourage people, the ham people, to join the Green Egg Society because that's where all the fun is over here. We're doing really good over here. You guys, you're not doing so good over here. Okay? they take another survey, all hidden, of course, and the results come back. Oh, now it's 7 out of 10 people like green eggs as opposed to ham. There's only 3 people that really like ham. Most people like green egg. How does that make the green egg people feel? They feel great. You know, we got new converts. We got great people. How does it make the ham people feel? Not very good, kind of marginalized. Gee, what's wrong with me? You know, I'm starting to lose touch. Something's wrong. I don't like it. Okay, the research comes out that maybe ham should be banned because it's unhealthy. 7 out of 10 people agree. Okay, so the algorithm predicts the most likely outcome is that people will buy green eggs and no more ham, and pretty soon there is no more ham. Simple, somewhat ridiculous example, but that's how the manipulation works. And most of it happens behind the scenes. You don't even know this manipulation is happening. So I think, Pastor Brent, you were talking about how the focus narrows down. Little more, little more, little more, little more. This is how it happens in the background. All right. Well, before we tell you about what's going to happen in the next session, it's question and answer. You got questions? Or see what I can do. You know where you buy the green eggs? You buy them on the metaverse. Okay, you get those glasses and you can buy green eggs there. They're kind of expensive though. So I can't give you a real example. I've read several, but they're somewhat convoluted. I know from a fact myself, I follow particular political forums, and because I have an interest in a particular way, and I know that more and more the articles that I read are focused to that thing that I like. Okay, and I think we've all experienced this, so that you find things that you like, and then all of a sudden these things start appearing in your feeds. And it's subtle. It's not like buy this or buy that. Sometimes it is, but it's a lot more subtle. It's, gee, you know, this is a better life for you over here. We do it. So just keep doing this type of thing. So it's that feedback that does it.
So is the main objective by these big companies all about marketing, or is it more about control?
Oh, I knew you were going to ask something like that. All of these companies have different motivations. Let's be clear, they're all profit-driven for the ones that we've been talking about so far, but they have different business models. Meta and Google don't sell much stuff themselves. What they sell the most of is information. And so they gather all this information, this is their business model, and then they analyze it, they aggregate it, and they pass it on to third parties. So that if I want to know about green egg people, I can go to Meta, I can go to Google, and I can say, give me all the information that you've got on green egg people. And they've got reams and reams and reams of it. So that's their business model. Tesla want to sell you stuff. So they're a product-driven company. Amazon typically want to sell you stuff. You know, hey, go on to the Amazon thing and, you know, get it, or downstream their latest video, that type of thing. So Microsoft tend to be sell me stuff, as does Apple. But there's a lot of other players. We've only looked at the big 7. There's thousands of them out there. You know, TikTok, for example, wasn't even mentioned in here. What are they doing? They're not selling you stuff. They're gathering data, and a lot of sensitive data. You know, and some say Chinese have that.
50 years ago, there was a science fiction boom. I think his name was Isaac Asimov.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, everything from the start of what you said up until neurotransmitters was the basis of his science fiction.
Yeah.
He didn't get to neurotransmitters, but he was writing about it 50 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and he saw it being used society
Absolutely.
to predict. So they would send police where they knew the crimes were going to happen and stuff.
Yeah. Well, Pastor Brent gave an example from Star Trek back in 1991 about this dopamine that was through this little headset you put on. It goes one step further than that, doesn't it? Plug in. away we go. Any other questions?
What, my question is, 50 years ago, I was 20 years old. Everybody I knew was reading that science fiction. Why weren't we better prepared?
You're asking the wrong guy. But you see, it comes down to benefit, doesn't it? People perceive the technology that we've got as being a net benefit to their lives. Now, you have to decide individually whether that's true or not. That's a philosophical question that I can't answer, but you have to decide if that technology is helping your life or hurting your life. Personal choice. Anybody else? Yes.
And the reason I did that was because when I watch YouTube, one is for, say, woodworking. I've actually manipulated the algorithm to my benefit because that way I get all woodworking stuff.
Yeah.
Another one is, say, hot dogs, right? So I
Yep.
manipulate it that way. But my question is, because I have a couple of aliases,
Yep.
and I don't have a VPN,
Mm-hmm.
but does it matter that I have an alias considering it's taking a picture of my face and it knows that my one alias that I'm watching a certain whatever video on,
Mm-hmm.
and the IP address,
Yep.
so the alias is pointless at that point, right?
Pretty much, yeah. You're on the right track, though. I mean, multiple identities is going to be one of the strategies we talk about in the second session, and how we can couple that up with some other different technologies to try to make you as anonymous as possible.
And I have a privacy question for you.
Yes.
And that is that I heard that there's a country that has so many video cameras that it can actually, if you're walking on the street and you jaywalk, they will send you a ticket. It'll know who you are by your cadence. Is that true?
It's possible. Absolutely. Technology exists to do that right now. Absolutely does. Anybody else? Yes. I'm sorry? How do we?
How do you become one of those companies that can collect all that stuff?
You'd be smarter than we are.
I know, but it's a great thing to use it.
Absolutely.
I mean, if the church did the same thing, then every time you looked at some religious thing, they pile a bunch of... Politicians obviously do it because you get
Sure.
all their stuff even when you don't want it.
Well, they started off, their model was brilliant. I mean, Google is the prime example. They were one of the leaders in this type of thing. They gave you things for free. And then they built this big agreement that says, oh, by the way, at the very fine print at the bottom, we're allowed to collect all this information on you, but we're giving you free stuff. And they gave you a lot of free stuff. And so, well, why wouldn't I want it? So, do you know that Google used to have a motto that do no evil? Where's their motto? They changed it 3 years ago. Yeah. Now it's do the right thing. Not the same, is it?
Be able to be used somehow. You should be able to use it for the other side.
Yeah, we should. But if we want to buy it, we probably can. Yes.
Are we maybe afraid of new stuff? Like I know the crowd is here, looks like 50 and over. Are we, because it's changing so fast, are we afraid of the new stuff that's coming out? And is that justified? A question in case of the green egg and the ham, if everybody's trying to sell their product, but with the new technology, wouldn't that balance itself out?
Well, potentially it can, but what it does is it segregates us, doesn't it? So that this is one camp, this is another camp over here. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to take people from this camp and put them over here and vice versa.
But if everybody does that, everybody that has a product, then
Sure.
they're all on the same playing field.
We chose a product, green eggs and ham, but it's much more subtle than that. Talk about your spirituality. Are you a Christian? Are you a Muslim? You know, if you want to be at that. Are you one color versus another color? You know, there's all sorts of subtle things. Do you belong to one political group versus another? It's not always about the commerce.
So you're speaking mostly about smartphones, but I imagine this extends to computers and smart TVs as well.
Oh, yes, it does.
And you
Smart
will
TVs, smart fridges, smart coffee makers, smart thermostats, smart locks, smart garage door openers, smart. Yeah. We're going to talk a little bit about that next session as well. How are we doing for time, Brent? I don't want to go over too far. Okay. Yes.
Okay, so you're telling me that this is the ultimate Big Brother watching us.
Yeah, there's several Big Brothers watching, absolutely.
Nothing we can do about it. Where I'm working, we're just got new software. We're issued phones in the morning, and the new software, they can tell whether I'm driving, when I'm driving this Chev, whether I'm in this Ford, this Chrysler.
Yep.
When I go to the bathroom.
Yep.
The whole 9 yards.
Yeah, how fast you drive.
So,
Did you go through a stoplight?
Absolutely.
Yep.
So you're talking about privacy. There is no such thing.
No. But there are things, there's no such thing as ultimate privacy unless you throw it all away and go back to pen and paper and go to the bank with cash, hand them and get your receipt, so on and so forth. But there are things that you can do to help protect some privacy. And the key to this whole thing is knowing what they're doing, have some awareness of what's going on, and what to do. The theme that we're going to choose for next session is healthy distrust. Okay? So by default, we're not going to trust things until we decide that that's what we want to do. So that's going to be our theme. Yes?
Are you going to touch on, like you were saying, how they want to figure out what you want to buy, but are you going to touch on more than that? I'm sure they're looking for more than, do I want apples or oranges at the store?
Of course they are.
Yeah.
And now we're talking about states and countries getting involved. And not only from the information gathering, but also from the cybersecurity. So it's not just, buying stuff, but there are active states and countries that do not want to see North America prosper. And so they are coming to our doorstep. Absolutely, they are.
Sorry, we're running out of time.
That's okay.
So do you think, thank you. Do you think that they have any kind of interest in targeting different age groups, like between someone who's younger and older? It'll be more beneficial.
Absolutely. Boy, that is one of their prime demographics.
So which one do you think they could have more influence over that would change for
Depends
their
on what
benefit?
they're looking for. If they're looking to sell stuff, they're looking for people who have money, and maybe the older group, might be a little more affluent, have a few more discretionary dollars. So, they might be good candidates for that. If we're trying to recruit somebody for a political cause, maybe somebody in one of the younger generations might be more apt to, move their political allegiance or their views. So it depends on what they're looking for.
So on the practical side, is there anything you can tell us to do to help not be traced or whatever?
Yes, that's next week.
Oh.
Or the next session, not next week, the next session. Stay tuned. See, there's always a come on. I got to get you coming back, eh? So.
Check. You've obviously scratched an itch that we want to keep scratching here. And it's just good to see so many people asking some really tough questions, because I think we all want some wisdom on this. I will suggest some homework, and I suggested it on Sunday. There is a Netflix TV show called The Social Dilemma, not a Christian one, but did you watch it? You've probably
I haven't watched it yet, no.
You haven't? Oh, wow.
No.
In that, they talk about, there's one line that they say, if you don't pay for the product, you are the product.
Bingo.
So if it's free, Facebook is free, you're the product, and they're gathering so much information about you. And you're right, it's an awareness thing that we need to have, especially with our kids. In that documentary, I'm going to leave you here soon. all of these leaders of these companies that you put up there will not let their kids on the same things that they're creating for the world on those devices. So that should tell you a lot. So it's an hour and a half. It's a good watch. It's good homework for all of this to create more awareness on this. So we're doing this every other week. So it's not next week, but it's the week after. And Monday doesn't work, right?
Correct, yeah,
So
not here Monday.
Stay tuned. It'll probably be maybe Sunday night. We'll come, but we'll let you know when it is. So it's every other week in this series. So there's 3 of them in total. This is one. Then there's a second one and a third one. Not Mother's Day. Thank you, guys. It won't be Mother's Day, but it'll be another time during that week. We'll let you know. So, has this been helpful? Let's thank Dave. Yes, thank you.